There's a Japanese system that transforms ordinary people into disciplined machines. And the best part is this system is so simple to apply that it seems like it won't work until it actually does. Are you someone who seeks more discipline in your life? Perhaps you want to study for an exam, start a new business, or participate in a competition and test yourself physically. Regardless of your reason, discipline is the link that connects you to your goal. Welcome to Purpose and Presence Hub, where today we're diving deep into a story that will completely change how you think about consistency and discipline. Undisciplined people spend their whole lives dreaming but accomplish nothing. You probably know someone who starts a new job and quits in less than 3 months, who can't maintain a relationship for very long, or who starts any project and gives up within the first few weeks. In Japan, there is a system that has the power to change this type of person, transforming them from someone undisciplined and disorganized into someone disciplined and consistent. This system doesn't involve drastic changes. It talks about small movements that make a big difference over time. These microscopic movements, when maintained without stopping, create something that no explosive motivation can create. This system unites two concepts, shitsuke and gammon. Shitsuke is the art of creating systems so simple that it's impossible to fail. Gammon is the inner strength to keep going when everything hurts. Alone, they are powerful. Together, they rebuild people. But there's a price. You'll have to start so small that you might feel ashamed, so small that people might laugh, and you'll have to keep going when every cell in your body screams to give up. The story begins in a tiny apartment in Detroit with a guy named William, 30 years old, sitting on the floor with a letter of resignation in his hands. His 4th resignation in 2 years. William wasn't stupid or lazy, but he had a devastating problem. He simply couldn't stick with anything. He would start a new job enthusiastically, but by the 2nd week, he'd be late, by the 3rd week absent, and by the 4th week fired or quitting himself. The pattern repeated endlessly. His girlfriend had broken up with him 6 months ago. The reason? You never finish anything, William. You can't even handle a difficult conversation until the end. That night, sitting on the floor, William looked at his own life and saw a terrifying pattern. 30 years, 0 accomplishments, nothing finished, nothing built. He had $847 in his account, rent was overdue, and a brutal truth hit him. He was the problem. William spent that entire night researching how disciplined people think. He didn't want more motivation. He wanted to understand how the brain of someone who actually finished things worked. That's when he discovered an article about Japanese factories and a system called shitsuke, the discipline that perpetuates itself. The article described how Toyota workers had followed the same processes for decades without fail. These workers weren't superhuman. They had created environments where doing the right thing was easier than doing the wrong thing. They didn't use willpower, they used design. William realized he woke up every day waging a giant internal war. Should I get up or stay in bed? Should I go to work or call in sick? Every decision consumed energy, and he always lost because he was using willpower to fight against an environment designed to make him fail. William also discovered gammon, the Japanese ability to endure discomfort without complaining. In Japan, children are taught that discomfort is not an emergency, that you can feel pain and keep going. He realized He'd spent 30 years doing the opposite. Every little discomfort was an excuse to stop. That night, with $847 and no prospects, William made a decision. He was going to use this system to rebuild his life from scratch. William always dreamed of having his own business. Every time he thought about starting a company, his mind created a giant movie, office, employees, high investment, complex business plan. And every time he froze. Too big, too scary, too impossible. But now reading about Shitsuke, he understood his mistake. He was trying to start big, and big beginnings require large amounts of discipline that he didn't have. William decided to start so small, it was almost embarrassing. He wanted to create a consulting business, but instead of trying to get big clients, he decided to send 5 emails to potential clients every day. Not 10, not 20, just 5. So small that there was no excuse not to do it. He created an environment that forced the behavior. He would wake up at 6 in the morning, open the laptop left on the kitchen table with his contacts folder already open, coffee beside him, nothing else on the table. The system was so simple, it seemed idiotic, but that was precisely the point. On the first day, William sent all 5 emails. It took 20 minutes. When he finished, he didn't feel motivated, but he had a sense of accomplishment. On the second day, his mind started thinking, you can skip it today. 5 emails aren't going to change anything. Here was the test. William remembered gammon. Discomfort is not an emergency. He didn't want to send the emails, but not wanting to wasn't a sufficient reason to stop. First week, 25 emails sent, 0 replies. Second week, 1 reply saying not interested. Third week, 2 replies, both negative. William began to doubt. This isn't working. But something fundamental had changed. Even without positive results, William was doing what he had set out to do. Fourth week, day 23, the first positive response arrived. A small local business needed basic consulting. Payment $300. William celebrated wildly because he had proven something to himself. Consistency works. Within 3 months, William was earning more than he had earned in any job, not because he had created something revolutionary, but because he had done one simple thing consistently. But then the first obstacle appeared. In month 4, one of the main clients cancelled the contract without warning. William lost 40% of his revenue overnight. The old mind shouted, "See, it doesn't work." But William had built something he never had before, real evidence. Instead of panicking, he went back to the system. He increased his emails from 5 to 10 per day. 2 weeks later, 3 new clients. A month later, higher revenue than before. Purpose and presence. Hub wants you to understand this deeply. Obstacles never end. They constantly appear. But perseverance conquers all. If you don't stop, you'll get through it. With his business stabilized, William decided to attack the second demon, his body. 30 years old, he smoked, he drank, completely sedentary. Every time he tried to change, he decided to start an insane routine that lasted 3 days at most. But now he had learned, start small, ridiculously small. William decided to run 400 meters every day for 30 days. Not even a kilometer, just 400 meters. A lap around the block. People thought it was pathetic, but the more ridiculous the better, because ridiculous is easy and easy is what he could maintain. First day of running, His body felt heavy, his lungs were weak. He almost died running 400 meters, but he had done it. Second day, his body ached. His mind said, "Today you can rest." Gammon kicked in. He tied his shoes and ran. Third day, raining. Rain had always been his favorite excuse. William remembered Zen monks who meditate in any weather because the practice doesn't negotiate. He put on a coat and ran in the rain. When he returned, he was certain he was becoming a different person. Fourth week completed. 30 consecutive days of 400 meters. William hadn't lost significant weight, but he had kept a training commitment for an entire month. In the second month, he increased it to 800 meters. In the third month, 1,200 meters. In the sixth month, 5 kilometers. 9 months after starting, William was running 10 kilometers 3 times a week. In the 10th month, William received an offer for a 3-week trip to another state. No gym, no routine, no structure. Here was the ultimate test. The old William would have refused or used it as an excuse to stop. The new William accepted the project and adapted the system. Hotel had a treadmill. He'd wake up earlier. He'd work in his hotel room. William realized Shitsuke isn't about having the perfect environment. It's about adapting the system to any environment. When he returned home, William was no longer dependent on external triggers. He could do things anywhere because he had built discipline within himself. That's when he understood the difference. Shitsuke builds the external system that facilitates behavior, but Gammon builds the internal system that continues to function when everything else falls apart. A year after starting, William was earning more in 1 month than he used to earn in 6 months. He had 10 regular clients. He had run 800 kilometers that year. He had maintained both systems for 365 days. He had developed a confidence based on evidence that he did what he said he would do. That confidence changed everything. People started seeking him out because he was trustworthy. So here's what William learned about building unbreakable discipline. First, start so small that you feel ashamed. If the goal doesn't seem ridiculously easy, it's still too big. Second, consistency beats intensity every day. It's better to do a little every day than a lot one day and nothing the rest. Third, use design to remove friction. Design your environment to make the right behavior automatic. Fourth, when the system fails, Gammon takes over. Not wanting to isn't a sufficient reason to stop. Fifth, obstacles are not exceptions. They are the rule. Consistency is about continuing, especially when everything is broken. Sixth, transformation is not linear. You're building the foundation invisibly. Seventh, never create gaps. Even 10% is better than 0. Eighth, the beginning is always awful. That's a sign you're on the right track. Ninth, you are building a new identity, not just habits. Each action is a vote for who you want to become. 3 years after starting, William was running a 6-figure business. But most importantly, he had become someone people turned to when they needed someone reliable. He wasn't the most creative or fastest or brightest, but he was the one who finished. And in a world full of people who start and don't finish, the one who finishes wins. What you need to understand is that this isn't an exception, it's a pattern. The system works for anyone willing to start so small it seems ridiculous and continue so consistently it seems obsessive. You don't need to be special. You need to be consistent. You don't need to start big. You need to start small. You don't need to be perfect. You need to never reset. Consistency isn't the fastest way. It's the only way that truly works. Here at Purpose and Presence Hub, we believe you're not like most people if you've made it this far. The question we want to ask you is simple. What area of your life needs consistency right now? Are you ready to start so small that it feels embarrassing? If yes, then start today. Choose one simple thing, so small that it's impossible to fail, and then just don't stop. Remember, you are not who you say you are. You are what you repeatedly do. Walk with honor, follow the path. Until the next video, this is Purpose and Presence Hub.